When I first started learning about social work, I didn't expect to be drawn to mental health. But during my time working in a hospital setting, I began to meet clients that were struggling with symptoms and they were fighting to be heard and understood. Hello, my name is Bethany Petrus. My major is in social work, and I plan on using my degree to work specifically with clients that are dealing with severe mental health challenges and in the inpatient care setting at the Wyoming State Hospital. So this class has actually been a godsend. It has been wonderful. So in this class, I've learned so much. So when researching a topic, I chose mental health. So you pick mental health as your topic. I did. And then you start to develop this research question, something that you want answered. So you start forming a research question, and then you start doing a hypothesis, and then you start researching it. So my topic was mental health, and I think of it as kind of like an umbrella, and the person holding the umbrella is there's different things that encompass mental health. So there's stigma and labels and mental illness. Anyway, mental health is a huge umbrella, and there's so many things that it can cover. So as a research question, I specifically asked, how can social workers improve the mental health outcomes of clients with severe psychiatric disorders in inpatient settings? So to break it down, how can Bethany Petrus improve the lives of the Wyoming State Hospital clients that are suffering with severe psychiatric symptoms in an inpatient setting, so at the Wyoming State Hospital? So here's this question, and I want to know how I can research to answer my question. So anyway, I've learned by using the Jerry Falwell library. It has this wonderful little search engine on the side, and by using the little search engine, you type in what you want to research. So mental health. Then after you type in mental health, 500,000 things pop up. So then you start narrowing it down. I looked at books, and then I looked at journal articles, peer-reviewed. Within, it gives you 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I chose 3. So I started narrowing it down, and then instead of it being 500,000, there's 20,000. And then you keep narrowing it down until you start going through the abstracts. And the abstracts are absolutely brilliant, because as I was reading these abstracts, I started noticing that some didn't really pertain to what I was looking for. Others really stood out. So one of the articles that I chose was about Hong Kong and Sydney. And what it did was it took 163, so it was a small survey of social workers. And so some worked in Sydney and some worked in Hong Kong. They formed these questions, they asked these questions, and they started noticing that the social workers were kind of influenced by culture. So anyway, great article, wonderful article, long article. Anyway, I was able to get what I needed for my research project from this article. The second article that I used, let's see, I did not print out my my outline, so bear with me, please. Oh, The second article that I used was the interventions to improve social climate in acute mental health inpatient settings. Systematic review of content and outcomes. So they used quantitative research methods in this. And so they were trying to ask different questions like the social climate versus are there different characteristics that start coming up with people that have mental health issues. So anyway, this article actually, it was a little more drier compared to the Hong Kong, Sydney article, but it's still in the abstract. It met the criteria for what I needed to start to answer my research question. So then we were asked what type of research did we feel would benefit our research question. So we learned specifically about two. We learned about the qualitative research method and the quantitative research method. And I personally like the qualitative research method. And the only reason why is because it focuses more on surveys and interviews, and to where you can actually get a personal feeling, as opposed to a quantitative research method, which is more numbers and statistics. And I mean, it's still helpful, but I like more of the interviews. So anyway, 3 research topics that I found for qualitative research was, and I quote from Crawford, he talks about like interviews, focus groups, and ethnography. And he said that the purpose of this method is to describe a culture in detail. In doing so, the researcher records and transcribes events that he or she witnesses and shares these findings with others. So what a better way to learn about people's experiences, by developing these research questions and asking and sending out surveys so you can start getting feedback and data. The other thing is interviews are commonly used in qualitative research. So they talk about, Crawford says that your agency might have structured forms or structured interviews for you to complete, but in a way you are still conducting a case study. So at the Wyoming State Hospital, we have LCSWs, which are licensed social workers, and they do what they call a psychosocial, which pretty much gets like, it's a structured interview. You're getting the background of, your client. And so then you have the case managers like myself that come in and start working on treatment plans, which is another structured interview that kind of ties into the psychosocial. And anyway, it's all qualitative research is part of social work, because you have to have case studies. And inter-rater reliability is a valuable tool. So according to Crawford again, he says that inter-rater reliability assessment is used to ensure the observations being made are consistent and not biased. So one thing, we learned pros and cons about research methods, and one of the cons of research is, as a interviewer, you can change your research questions to get what you want out of people. So I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, there's a way to change your research. So anyway, let's see here. So I talked about strengths and then limitations, which is the researcher bias. Also, let's see. They talk about interviews, by having one-to-one conversations. It lets people tell their own story. And so in groups, the best groups are the ones where you can share your story. And because of boundaries, you have to be careful what stories you share. But anyway, focus groups are another one. So, and making observations. So I'm going to tie this up together because it's already been 11 minutes. So in conclusion, so my things that I learned was to have a topic, mental health, to have a research question, to do your research, and to make sure that the findings that you're finding are actually legit and not something that is just, you can't believe everything you read out off the internet. So you have to make sure it's a scholarly source. And anyway, I guess, let's see, what did I write for my conclusion? I wrote that my research question is, how can social workers improve the mental health outcomes of clients with severe psychiatric disorders in inpatient settings? So I believe that qualitative research method, especially interviews and case studies, would be the most effective way to explore this topic. And so anyway, thank you for your time, and sorry I spoke so long. Anyway, have a good one. Bye.